Hey guys, Code 43 here today with another tour and drive for you. Today I've got the keys to this 1987 BMW 325 IS. I owned one of these a couple of years ago and it was an absolute ball to drive. I think I bought it about 7 years ago, owned it for a little over a year, did lots of stuff to it and let it go for too dumb of a reason because I didn't have a good place to store it. This one that you see here belongs to a good friend of mine. Thanks, Ben, for letting me borrow your car for a couple of days. Lucky you get to drive my Mercedes. This thing's a freaking ball to drive. Do a little walk around of it first so you can see generally all the angles of it. This paint is BMW's black, or Schwarz in German. Normally a 325 IS would have the marking here on the trunk. You see my camera in the passenger window there to be used later. So yeah, the E30 3 Series, which is what this is, this was basically the peak model you could get short of an M3. Had the most power, had the best handling capabilities, etc., etc., and the best engine of the bunch besides the M3, like I said. And this used a 2.5 liter inline 6-cylinder single overhead cam with 168 horsepower and 164 pound-feet of torque. Red line of about 6,500 RPM. Absolutely great sounding engine. I loved how mine sounded. This particular one has a set of headers on it. Special details of the IS include the really deep chin spoiler up front here, which has air passages to the radiator, and then the lower center ones there are to the oil cooler, which is specific to any 325i car. Then it has the integrated fog lights as well. Everything works on this car. I mean, it's got almost 220,000 miles. Every single thing works. Nice set of 16-inch wheels on it that actually really complement the car well. The biggest you'd normally get on this car would be a 14-inch, unless you got an iX all-wheel drive model, which would have had a 15-inch wheel. This would have been called an early model. 1987 was the last year for that in a hardtop car. Convertibles held onto it for a couple more years. But basically it had skinnier taillights. The rear fenders are more round as opposed to having more of a flatter shape over the tires. I'll show you a picture of a late model so you can see the comparison. Such simple, timeless lines on this car, too. He's got an older set of Continental DWSs on it, which, man, they really help it handle. I love how these tires handle. I've got them on my big Mercedes, which is a very different animal than this car, but, oof, do they sharpen up the steering. No, it's not the nicest one, that's for sure. Paint could sure use some love. It could use some repainting in some spots, but the car itself is actually really solid. The underbody is near perfect. You know, all the suspension points are great. No rot to worry about. Some cosmetic things here and there, but every old BMW in the Midwest certainly, looks a bit like this. Curb weight of these cars was just over 2,800 pounds. I believe the number I have here is 2813 for an IS model in stock form. And like I said, this car is Schwarz or black, non-metallic, but the interior, which we'll check out a bit later, is, if I remember correct, this is cardinal red. Now it's rough, but the color is super cool. Love dark red interiors in cars of this age. So he was giving me a rundown of the history of this car. Like I said, he's owned it about 10 years, and it spent the last 7 years indoors until just last summer of 2020, when he finally got it out and running again because it had an engine fire about 3 years into his ownership. He told me he bought it in college for $750. First car he's ever purchased. He used it as his daily year-round. It's been all around Michigan, including all over the UP. And it's had some travels out to the East Coast as well. I think he's seen some miles. He learned how to cut his teeth on working on cars in this thing. I mean, he learned how to do brakes, oil changes, and spark plug changes on it. Taught him all sorts of electrical, engine, suspension, and body work. Apparently he's had a lot of failures with it over the years. A clutch failure, brake failure, blown tires, suspension failures. But it's always been dependable for him otherwise. He was still daily driving it when the fuel pressure regulator caused a fuel leak into the engine bay. And that's what started the fire. Thankfully, he had some extra coolant on board to put it out. And like I said, it sat for 7 years, and he got another $500 engine to put in it, which is what powers it now. And it's already been cross-country in this form as you see it. And, I mean, driving it the last week or so that I've had it, I can see why. I mean, it drives great. I think he wants to actually try rally crossing it, which I hope he'll take off the front spoiler for and put a skid plate on it, But it should be a lot of fun. Now, I know he's done a lot of mechanical restoration on it along the way, too. Obviously, maintenance items on the engine, timing belt, water pump, that kind of thing. But I know he also told me that he did a full suspension bushing replacement. It's all polyurethane all throughout, and it shows. I mean, the on-center steering is very twitchy and touchy. I mean, it's great for a sporty car like this. The thing handles so good. I know he told me it has a steering rack from a later model car, from like a E46 platform car, which reduces the number of turns locked to lock. And again, that really shows. It has a super tight turning radius. It's not a big car. I mean, on par, similarly sized cars from this era were like VW Jetta Mark II, Mercedes W201, the 190E, the Audi 4000 or Audi 80. Those have been your competition to this car. Porsche didn't really have anything comparable at the time. But yeah, man, I mean, these things are known for being legendary. This is kind of, this is not the car that defined BMW as the ultimate driving machine. That was really the 2002, which I'll show a picture of here. But this is technically the second generation BMW 3 Series, even though it's kind of the third generation that's on a similarly sized platform, if you count the 2002. He also told me that he has a prototype Guibo, which is your flex joint between the transmission and the drive shaft, or the drive shaft and the rear end. It's a higher durometer rubber than the standard one would have been for this car, so it'll stand up a lot better to vibrations and such. Gosh, what a great looking machine. It doesn't matter what kind of shape these things are in, they always look good. Especially these IS models. Me personally, I would also add like a set of side skirts to complete the look, and see if I can find some sort of bumper extensions for the rear to kind of even out the level of the car, because you can see it's low in the front and high in the back. And really the only thing to note that you can see in the back is the muffler, which it also has a full custom exhaust on it. I mentioned it has headers, 6-into-1 header, and then a single pipe all the way back to the dual outlet muffler. Sounds pretty good. I don't think it has any sort of resonator or anything in the middle, or a cat even. I think he told me it's straight pipe to that muffler. And I mean, it's noisy, but it's not extraordinarily loud. Other things to cover, well, at this point we'll take a quick peek in the trunk. It's got some spare parts and fluids in there just in case anything were to go funky. Pretty sizable trunk for a compact car. There's a full-size spare underneath the floor. Always keep a fire extinguisher in your old car. I need to take that advice of my own. Take a little look under the hood here. Love the sound of these doors. Especially the click when you release them. And like I said, cardinal red. Very cool. The way these hoods release is very interesting too. The pull is in the standard place. You see the hood moves up and forward to this position. It doesn't open like a standard hood. It's a clamshell. And this is BMW's M20 inline 6. Like I said, 168 horsepower, 164 pound-feet of torque. Very simple, easy to work on engine overall. Nothing's really a big pain to deal with. It's got good engine mounts in it, so it doesn't go anywhere and you don't smash the engine or the fan into the radiator to cause instantaneous death. There's your paint code right on the shock tower. But yeah, I mean, nothing really out of the ordinary for any older German car in here. I love the way these look with the hood open too. Down and in. We'll take a look around the interior, but I also want to mention that it is disc brake all the way around, all four corners. I believe that's specific to 325's, I's and IS's. Any of the lower models, 318, 325Es, had drums in the back. So yeah, seats are in kind of rough shape, but they're still pretty comfortable despite that. Leather's a bit firm, but man, that red is so cool. And I know he's in the process of reupholstering these seats. You'll have to excuse my child's seat in the back. Right now, this is my daily driver, and taking the little man around is pretty difficult in a two-door. Nice, simple, large steering wheel to make, not that it's exactly high-effort steering, but to make it easier. Pretty decent, accurate gear shift. This one has some tired bushings, but not a big deal. This one has some additional accent rings around the gauges. Pretty simple, all analog. Temp on the right, fuel gauge on the left, tachometer and speedometer in the middle. And then all your various warning lights come along the bottom. Light control is pretty simple, just pull out. And then this is actually your fog lights button. I'll demonstrate those in a few minutes. Up top, you have your sunroof control. It does work just fine. The visors have these nice integrated pockets they just kind of sit into in the front of the headliner. Then up here you have BMW's check system, or check panel. And the deal is that when you start the car, if there are any issues with like a fluid level or if any pop up while you're driving, what'll happen is in the gauges here, between the tach and speedo, down here in the center, it'll flash check. And that means look up here because something's wrong, or could be wrong. Like brake light goes out, or license plate lights go out, or like your coolant or oil level dropped too low. Various things like that are on there. He actually has an aftermarket wireless charger up here that he has strapped to the vents, which works great, actually. And it's a great phone holder, good position for having like your navigation up or your music controls, etc. He's a nice aftermarket Bluetooth head unit in here. Parrot Asteroid, I'm really a fan. He's had it in a couple of his cars and I've played with it over the years. Otherwise, all your controls down here are really simply laid out. HVAC controls on the bottom. You have the sliders that tell you how much air you want to each area. upper vents or lower. You have your AC button on the right there, fan control as well, and then this is like an early trip computer. It tells you various information as you go. I'll demonstrate that in a bit. As far as center console, he has E36 window switches in here from the next generation car. They're super easy to wire up and they work fine. Little ashtray and cigarette lighter up front here. Nothing else really to note in the console. Show you the back seat quick. This is not a big car. Seats almost look like they haven't been used very much. And actually, these windows pop out in the back. Like in an older minivan, you pull that latch out and they pop out about 3 inches on either side. Some extra ventilation for passengers in the back. Visibility out of this car is absolutely astonishing. I mean, all the pillars are very thin. You can see out of them really well. Let's take a look at some other details. Start it up and turn on the lights here. He thinks it has tired valve stem seals, which is why after it's warm and you park it for more than a few minutes, it tends to be a little long to turn over. You can see the check light there. That's telling me brake lights, but if I touch the brake pedal, it goes out. Check light is gone. Simple as that. Gauges illuminate orange, which is pretty cool. Turn signals up top, high beam right in the middle there. Yeah, same with the center. All the controls light up orange, and I like that. This is with the high beams on. Flip those off, we should have the fog lights. Yeah, there we go. Cool look. All right. Other than that, I think we're ready to go for a little drive. Okay. Go for a spin. Let's go for a spin in the E30. Clutch grabs right off the ground. I mean, feels good. Such a good looking car. Gotta get out of the parking garage here first. Hopefully the camera survives. I just rinsed it off before the video. Rumbles along nice. I like the noise. Single overhead cam, straight six, man. I've owned 2 E30s, 1 E24 6 series. I'll throw a picture in here. You've probably seen it on my channel before, in one of my tours and drives before. I think it was episode 5. And that had a bigger straight six. That had a 3.4 liter versus this 2.5 liter.
surprisingly, this feels more torquey than that, but maybe that's because, actually, I think this has the same rear gears. It should be a 373 rear gear in this car as it was in my E24, but the E24 was 3,500 pounds. This is 2,800, a little bit lighter. Like that signal click. Everything is so tactile in this car. It feels so good. Even the weight of the turn signal switch is perfect. Short gears, short gears. Such a fun car to drive. Gumption on the way out of here so that I can follow suit and you can really hear this thing. Such a good sounding engine. Going 60, a little downshift here. Thing does not mess around. I mean, it's not a fast car, and it really only builds its power way up top of the rev range, but it sounds so good. It's laid on its feet, the gears are close together, and it feels great to shift between gears. With all those poly bushings, I mean, you feel everything through the steering wheel. You can feel the bumps maybe a little bit more than a standard car, but I believe it still has stock style springs and struts in it, shocks. So it rides great. It takes the bumps real good, but it's still a short wheelbase car. Fuel economy on these things is like 19 and 25, I think, from the factory. 0 to 60 is supposed to be somewhere right around 7.3, 7.2 seconds, something like that. It's pretty quick. For its age and its power level, it's pretty quick, especially for being 35 years old. This car. 325i was a revelation. I mean, the straight 6 is certainly heavier than any of the 4-cylinders, so maybe the 4-cylinder cars handle just a little bit better. This car does not handle bad at all. It is really, really good. I guess even the center steering, they do anything. It's leaning into corners already. So much fun. But I mean, we're cruising 75 to 80 here at about 3,300 RPM. It's noisy, but it's not ridiculous. It's not really drony. It's just there's a lot of quality. Actually, the cruise control even works. That's what the stalk below is for. Press that forward, put off the gas, cruise control. It's non-adjustable speed, so you push it up or down, it just shuts it off. If you pull it back, you resume where you left off. You got that cheap below. Just use the buzzers. Ready? that's directly below it. Man, this thing is fun. Fun to drive. It's not big. You can see I'm in here. Now, I'm comfortable. I was able to get the seat past the kid seat back here, so I can sit at a proper back angle and keep my legs far enough away that I'm uncomfortable. My foot rests nicely on the dead pedal. Yes, I'm touching the dash and the door. I mean, the center console and the door, but I'm not uncomfortable in here. But it is the limit of how small a car I would want. I mean, my arm is kind of, that's all the limits I get until I'm in the door. No armrest down here, but you can buy some aftermarket things like you can get a cup holder that slots in here because there's none in here typical German of the 80s. No limits whatsoever. What a good car. I miss mine. This makes me miss mine a lot, but driving this for this extended period of time makes me realize that it wouldn't work for me in modern day. I mean, I couldn't possibly do it. If it was a four-door, maybe I could get a four-door to work for me. Maybe. But it would still be tight. I thought about importing a wagon from overseas. Maybe someday I will. When my kid's a little bit older, you know, I can put himself in the car instead of me putting him in the car. So, not right now. It just doesn't make sense. Hope you guys are enjoying my videos. Like, comment, subscribe, and suggest other vehicles you want to try and see on the channel. I'll do my best to oblige. I mean, I'm always trying to get a hold of something interesting, whether it's old or new. It doesn't matter to me. I go around to various dealerships and check out their inventory so I can drive new vehicles and just do like standard reviews. I call those reviews on my channels. But when I'm doing someone's personal car, for example, or something old or historic or definitely unique, even if it's on a dealer lot, I call it a tour and drive, like this video, for example. My releases are kind of all over the place lately. I've been busier than ever with work, so it's harder for me to get my videos out during the week on Wednesdays. I will definitely always have a video out for Sunday mornings. It's just, like I say, it's harder for me to get my ones out on Wednesdays. I'm going to try and be better at it. I've got a stack of stuff on my hard drive I need to get out, so try and get those wrapped up in the next few weeks. I've probably got 9 or now with this one 10 videos to build over the next 5 weeks. So I want to get that done, definitely. But yeah, other than that, hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time.